Welcome to the Group Dentistry Now Show, the voice of the DSO industry. Join us as we talk with industry leaders about their challenges, successes, and the future of group dentistry. With over 200 episodes and listeners in over 100 countries, we're proud to be ranked the #1 DSO podcast. For the latest DSO news, analysis, and events, and to subscribe to our DSO weekly e-newsletter, visit groupdentistrynow.com. We hope you enjoyed today's show.
Welcome, everyone, to the Group Dentistry Now Show. I'm Bill Newman, and as always, thanks for watching us, whether it's on YouTube or on our website, groupdentistrynow.com, or maybe you're listening to us on Apple, Spotify, or Google. But however you consume the content, we are happy you are here. And we're coming up on, or we may at this point be at episode 200. So we have quite a few of these podcasts under our belt. And this is a lot of fun. Get to know people, I think, in a way that you don't always have the opportunity to. And I know both Dr. Molina and Bob pretty well. These are the two guests we have on the show here today. But I always learn something new when we're having these conversations. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Tony Molina. He is the lead partner at Guardian Dentistry Partners. Tony, thanks for being here today.
Oh, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
This is going to be fun. And we have Bob Edwards. He is the National Accounts Director for Jazz Imaging. And if you go to any DSO shows, Bob's probably there. So good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you for having me today. Pleasure.
Yeah. This is going to be a lot of fun. And we'll get to know Tony, his role at Guardian Dentistry Partners, a little bit more about Guardian, and then also get to know Bob and what Jazz Imaging is doing really to revolutionize the industry as it comes to imaging, and just their model is really, really unique and serves DSOs well. First up, why don't we start with you, Dr. Molina? A little bit about your background and your role at Guardian. And I guess before you do that, I just have to say Guardian holds a special place in the Group Dentistry Now company's organization's heart. We've had the opportunity to attend your doctor partner meetings, and you've really yet to know the team really, really well, and just kind of have grown up with Guardian as Guardian has started back in 2019. I believe you were also on our 2020 Emerging Groups to Watch winners, and I know, Dr. Molina, you were there at the beginning, so I'll stop and I'll let you fill in the rest.
Sure. So my background is I was in private practice in Key Biscayne, Florida, which is it's kind of a suburb of Miami, Florida, for 25 years. In 2012, I moved to Dallas, and at that point got into the DSO business. I was approached by some people about accumulating some offices. I found a business partner, and I went from 1 to 9 offices in about a 8-9 month period. I did that from 2013 to about 2019. And then in 2019, my family decided that we wanted to move back from Dallas to Miami. And I was looking for someone who I could partner with and maybe move some of my offices in. And I met the people at Guardian. And so in 2019, I became my group. 5 of my 9 offices became part of Guardian Dental Partners. They were offices 8 through 13. And so I then came back to South Florida, became a business development partner, met people, started the Florida group. Fast forward to today, we have 170 offices in 12 states. We don't do as much business development meeting with new partners. That's slowed a bit, but I manage some of the vendor relationships, and one of the ones that I manage, which I enjoy tremendously managing, is the Jazz Imaging partnership that we have. We've been working with them for, I guess, a little over a year and a half to 2 years. I don't remember, but it's been a great relationship, and I look forward to talking about it here.
Thanks, Dr. Molina. Bob, a little bit about your background and your role at Jazz, and then what Jazz does.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Appreciate it. My background, I have been in imaging now, since 1998. Got into medical sales in 1997, right out of Oregon State University, and got into medical sales and then got into imaging right away in 98, contrast media on the hospital side, and got me into every modality of x-ray. And then from there, actually was presented with an opportunity in dentistry, being married to a dentist, to switch over to imaging on the dental side. And I did that 2008 all the way up until now. And with Jazz, and have mainly been a sensor with a sensor company the entire time. That is it.
Well, that's great, Bob. And Jazz is definitely kind of shaking things up with their model. It's an organization, and we enjoy working with Jazz. And first of all, I should thank Jazz for sponsoring this podcast and being a part of it. It gives us the opportunity to bring people like Dr. Molina on, so our audience gets to know more about what he does and how Guardian and some of the DSOs operate. So let's talk, because Bob, sounds like you've got a lot of experience with imaging and sensors, but Dr. Molina also does, and he but maybe get a little bit of a history lesson from both of you on the evolution of imaging, and maybe Dr. Molina, over your years of practice, maybe what you've used, what you've experienced, the good and the bad, and then maybe how you ended up partnering with Jazz. I mean, it's a lot in one question, but we can take little bite-sized pieces.
Sure. I would tell you that I started my initial foray into digital dentistry was buying an Accuray from Henry Schein. And this was probably around 2000, I think, somewhere maybe, probably around 2000. It was not a great system. We had a lot of issues with it. It was very, very buggy. I remember that from there, we went over, and this is when I was in private practice. We got the Dexis radiographic system, and that worked very well, a lot better. Obviously, from that what lasted me for probably, so that was 2000. I sold my office in 2012. At that point, I started acquiring the practices in Dallas. They had XDR. If I go into the history here, XDR, and I forgot the software. The software program was XDR. It was a sensor out of California, and so we probably had 15 to 20 sensors across all the offices. So there was always something going on with the sensors, and a lot of sending back and overnighting and whatnot. Then when Guardian started, the way we acquired practices is we partner. And so we've had every kind of sensor across all of these offices that you can think of. And at some point, we were looking for a way to standardize the relationship. And that's how we began working with Jazz. And I mean, I can get into it more. I don't want to monopolize the time here. So we can get into that a little bit more. But that's sort of my history with sensors, good, bad, and now very good with Jazz.
Sure. And so when you're acquiring or partnering with different groups and practices, they're using whatever system they had, right? And so we've got all these different partners on different systems, and so then I guess that led you to Jazz, and we can talk a little bit about why and how that's working out. How about you, Bob? From your perspective, I mean, is that a pretty similar story? Do you see a lot of DSOs and groups where they're using different types of sensors and systems?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. Usually it was, if you have the software in the office, you also have the sensor, because a lot of the sensors, majority of the sensors only work with that software the way it's intended to do it. So a lot of times, Dr. Molina is not really getting into it, but the headache of when you acquire an office, it's not always the same software. It's not always the same, backbones, and it's definitely not always the same sensors. So there's a lot of times you have to put different vendor hats on when you have to see if your sensor is under warranty, if you have to send it in, what company does this sensor belong to? But yeah, for the majority of it, that's exactly it. A sensor and a software went together, and now we don't have to necessarily do that anymore, which is nice with Jazz Imaging.
So you're really leading into the next question, which is really, the stressors and some of the pain points with sensors. Dr. Molina, maybe a little bit more insight into that.
Sure. So obviously the stressors are to Bob's point, is that a lot of times you have to match the software and the sensor to each other, right? And so once you pick a software and you go with it, you're now sort of married to the sensor, because it's disruptive to change the software if you decide to change the sensor or go with another company. That's one of the I would say one of the big pain points. Another pain point is that upfront cost of the sensor, right? They're very expensive to buy. I know, I bought enough of them. And so when you look at pain points, those are two. The third one is support, right? And having to pay for warranties and having to pay and what level of support you get. If you want, I can get into the benefits. One of the reasons among those three pain points, Jazz solved for a lot of those, right? When we were looking, so at one point, as we got to a larger number of practices, we were looking for a vendor to work with that would help solve some of those problems, right? Because we didn't want to be going to 5, 6, 7 different vendors trying to, get a relationship going with them. If we could go to one sensor vendor and get a relationship that worked for all of our offices, that would be ideal. And Jazz did that because Jazz works with all the different softwares. So now we don't have to disrupt the offices and their software, because anytime you have to change software in an office, you have to retrain the teams. It's a difficult process. The pricing was very reasonable. It was a lot better pricing. And so that helped. Obviously, any DSO or any office is always price conscious. So, the pricing helped a great deal. And then also the relationship in terms of support. The support has been excellent because we want to make sure if as we convert to being primarily a Jazz sensor company, we have one point of contact for support. And it's very easy to just point doctors in one direction. So what we've done over the last year and a half is slowly, every time a doctor needs a new sensor, we don't really dictate to them, but we say, hey, we have this great relationship with Jazz. Let's give this a try. And I would say 99% of the time it works out. The sensor works just fine. Everybody's very happy. And if some issue comes up, I've been on the calls with their technical support people and they've handled them very well. So, it's been very beneficial to us from not just a good product, but a good product that is supported well. And that's my responsibility, is to make sure that if we as a company decide to go with a product, that we don't mess up anything in the offices, a lot of offices. So it's been a great relationship so far.
Yeah, that's great. And you've got a whole host of questions I have based on what you just said there. But, you talked about something which is change management. And so you've got docs that are using a certain sensor and then, you have the relationship with Jazz. Are they open to that? I mean, I'm sure in some cases you probably get a little bit of pushback, but it sounds like most of the time, if they get the buy-in, they're happy with the solution. I mean, is just change management in general, I guess, is probably more of is that a big challenge that you have as a DSO?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the strengths of Guardian is as we partner with our practices. So as partners, we try to be the least disruptive possible, right? We don't change management softwares. We don't change a lot of processes. We may change a payroll vendor or something like that, but that's usually pretty neutral to the office. Patient facing, no patient should know that Guardian exists in any of our offices. We're very in the background in terms of our support structure. So when we go and when we decide that we want to partner with somebody on a vendor relationship, we have to make sure that it's the least disruptive process possible. So I would tell you, early days, the first maybe 10 or 15 people who needed a new sensor, there was a little bit of an introduction and a process of getting comfortable. So, several of the doctors wanted to demo them, and Jazz Sensor, Bob and Jocelyn were great about letting people demo them. We even had a couple partners that wanted someone from Jazz to help them integrate it into the practice, and they were very great at accommodating it. because honestly, it's not that necessary. Again, across a lot of offices, everybody wants different kind of support levels. Most offices, it's a plug and play, very easy with some support that we can get online. We worked out how we were going to do that, and it's been a great relationship that way. So, yeah, we do have one or two partners who still stuck with their sensor because they didn't like something about Jazz, and we support that. We allow them to do that, but it's once they've tried it, 99% of them have loved the sensor and have no problems with it.
That's great. Now that's it can be certainly a challenge with, especially with the number of locations and partners that you have. Bob, you need to talk a little bit more about that because Dr. Molina really, you touched on the support and the training aspect of things, and I think it's important because when you're servicing somebody that has one or two locations, that's relatively easy to do. But when you have multiple locations scattered all over the country, and different levels of support needed, that can be a real challenge for an organization. So can you talk a little bit about how Jazz handles that?
The sensor is a very unique product because it is usually purchased by the dentist who never takes an x-ray. It is handled by everybody in the office and moved from operatory to operatory, plugged in, plugged out, cleaned in a mouth, out of a mouth, in a sheath, out of a sheath, and then it's handed off. And really, it needs to be able to produce a very nice picture so the doctor can see it and make sure and treatment and produce and treatment plan accordingly with it. And you have to be able to do that. If you can check those boxes, you're doing okay to start off with. But a lot of times, you can't. If you didn't have if you had a software, you had to kind of use that sensor. With us, with Jazz, and what we do, we make two products. We have two sensors, the Solo and the Minor. And really, we made sure that we could plug into all software natively without the pain of twain the way it was supposed to. So before, when I was kind of saying a lot of companies out there, a jack of all trades, they cover all these imaging products, master of none. I like to think that we really are the master of sensors because that's all we focus on. When you call in for support, you're not hitting, you really are hitting our phone tree of two lines, one for sales, two for support. It's not an all or nothing. A lot of dentists think that, because they have that mentality of, I have to switch software. I have to switch all my sensors. That's not it. We want you to maintain your workflow, keep it safe, keep it solid. And then with that, you can just add a Jazz sensor. And I can go on and on about it, but really add a Jazz sensor in there. It's very easy. Our support is excellent. When you call in, we really remote, take a look, see if there's something we can fix inside internally. 90% of the time, it is the sensor because I hate to say it now, in 2025, it's a commodity. It's a tire on a car. It's the most traveled piece of equipment in a dental office, and they all break and they all go down. None of them are bulletproof and none of them last forever. So that, like Dr. Molina, they're always having to think about replacing sensors, especially when you have that many offices. A sensor goes down. Being married to a dentist, I know what her day is like when a sensor is out of rotation. And usually she will say something like, I didn't get a lunch. We had to kind of move it around fast and I didn't get to get my break. And I was like, okay. And sometimes that makes my night a little interesting. So.
Well, let's move on to how Guardian and you, Dr. Molina, evaluate sensors. So when you were starting to look for maybe a single option or limiting the options, not limiting the options, but really, focusing on one partner, what's the evaluation process like? And maybe it just doesn't have to be just for sensors, but in general, how do you evaluate bringing in new vendors and new products?
So we'll go out to the different vendors if we're trying to look for a specific solution. In this case, obviously sensors. We'll go out to the various vendors and assess what that relationship would look like, right? So what does it look like from a support structure? What did it look like from ease of use? Obviously, cost is also part of the process. Once we decide, okay, we like these 2 to 3 sensors, then we put in a pilot program into one of our groups where we'll do 5 or 6 offices, usually with one of our lead partners, and also with our clinical director, Dr. Barakat, to let them assess And obviously, as Bob mentioned, one of the key people here when we want feedback on these is the dental assistants who are actually using the product, right? So if it's in the sensor, if it's an intraoral camera, whatever it is, we want feedback from all the teams on, okay, what did you think of the ease of use? What did you think of the ease of installation, right? Because you also don't want to make it something difficult to use to set up. And so we take all of these factors into account and then basically put it into practice, because everything sounds great on paper, but when the rubber hits the road, that's when you really know if the image quality is there, how difficult it is. We also like to, if it's something where it plugs into our software, we want to see it work across 3 or 4 different software platforms, right? Because it may work great with one, might not work as good with others. And so that's all of the part of the evaluation process that we use. And at the end of the day, then we kind of sit down, clinical director, obviously finance people, myself, and sit down and decide, okay, this is the direction we want to go in, and then, present it and make the decision that way. And then we talk to our CEO and CFO and go from there.
So maybe we go to what I find really unique about jazz is the jazz club. So Bob, maybe you can kind of lead the discussion on what is jazz club and why is that so, why does that resonate so well with group practices and DSOs?
Well, the Jazz Club. Let me back up with that. What kind of piggyback on Dr. Molina. The things that we try to make sure first and foremost is patient comfort. Is the sensor comfortable for the patient? What's the ease of use? How easy is it to use? How easy it to integrate with their software, which we can do very simplicity, and then also the image quality, making sure that we produce that nice picture for the doctor and the staff, and then on top of that, the 2 other things are support and warranty. So with the Jazz Club, we make it very easy. It's a subscription-based model that we do. One, because Dr. Molina mentioned the prices of sensors are very expensive when you have to buy them. I always tell people there's the initial cost of purchase, and then there usually is the continuous cost of ownership that you have to pay for that warranty or that insurance program that you have. With Jazz Club, we make it very simple, very easy. It's a 30-day agreement. Being a privately held company, we can easily do this out of San Jose, California. It's $498 to sign up, activate a sensor, and then with that, it is $139 a month per sensor, and the sensor is fully warranted, fully supported, meaning that we will do the installation. It's a quick, easy installation of us just loading the file drivers for your software, for the Jazz sensor, and away you go. It's a very quick, easy process. And then with that, if anything happens to the sensor, this is the most important thing. Everything happens to the sensor. It's like saying that you have the same exact tires and you've never changed your tires ever, and you drive your car every day, 1,000 miles, and it doesn't happen. You're eventually going to have to get new tires, new sensors. They go down, they go flat. You're on the side of the road. And so with Jazz, we make it very quick and easy to get you back up and running, meaning that if one of Dr. Molina's offices, if a Guardian dental partner has an issue with a Jazz sensor, they would call Jazz support. We're remote in for about 5-10 minutes most. We're not here to keep you on the phone. We're not here to convince you it's your fault. We will just want to see if it's a software-related problem. If it's not, majority of the time it is sensor. And what we're going to do is proactively put a brand new sensor in a box with a return label and then ship that out to you immediately. And then all we want you to do is to put the old sensor back in that box, use the return label and ship it back, plug your new sensor in, and you're right back on the road. Easy. And that's the Jazz Club, is that it's a 30-day agreement. You have 30 days to test drive it all around. We want you happy. We don't want people. We've had some people, and like Dr. Molina mentioned, it doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen every now and then to where someone just wants to stick with what they have. We're creatures of habit. It's okay. We understand. No harm, no foul. At least you tried us. And we just want to make sure that we part friends. And there's always an opportunity, again, to look at Jazz if you needed to be. But again, that doesn't really ever happen. But we want to be easy to work with. We want to be simple. We want to there's a lot of other things that Dr. Molina has to worry about with all his other offices. Sensors should not be one of them because they're going down. I mean, in all his offices, I guarantee there'll probably be one sensor today that needs to be replaced somewhere.
And Dr. Molina, maybe you can talk a little bit about how that subscription model, the Jazz Club, has worked for Guardian.
Well, it's worked very well because obviously your upfront costs go down, so your capex is a lot less than if you're going with what I would consider a more traditional sensor model and acquisition model. And then the monthly is, not just warranty, it's also updates. So, I mean, any kind of thing, software updates, things of that nature are run all along with that. When the monthly cost, if you compare that to paying for a warranty for a traditional sensor, it's about the same. So what we're getting is a plug and play sensor that with a really good cost and really great quality. One of the things I didn't mention was the image quality. We have to satisfy 170 plus doctors in terms of image quality. So, obviously you can't, that's hard to do, but we've been able to solve that with Jazz with, minimal problems here and there, maybe a small glitch or so, or one doctor who just preferred his old sensor. So.
And I know that we talked a little bit about this before we started the record, but there are, you mentioned the pricing. You're really transparent at Jazz. Guardian, maybe has a little bit of a different program because just how large the organization is, but very, very similar. That subscription model works well, whether you have a single practice or you're a small group, or whether you're somebody like Guardian, that is one of the larger group practices that exists.
Yeah. One thing we do that's really nice is, and Dr. Molina was correct. I mean, when I was representing sensors in 2008, we were selling sensors for $9,000 each, and it came with a 1-year warranty. So at month 13, we would hand the customer, the office, a bill, if you will, an insurance policy saying, "Hey, do you want to keep this sensor warranted and supported? If you do, you need to pay this fee, and we'll replace your sensor." But again, they just got done paying, if they wanted 2 sensors, they paid $18,000 upfront for 2 sensors that came with a 1-year warranty. And then month 13, they would have to usually pay something around another $2,000 for the year to keep those sensors warranted, something of that nature. And I'm being a little conservative there. The majority of the companies out there come with a 2-year warranty. But with us, with the Jazz Club, it's very, very inexpensive to get started with Jazz. It's very, very inexpensive to add another sensor and then do it on a subscription-based model. So $498 and then really $139 a month. When I always tell people, do your own numbers, run it, and it usually makes sense for them. And again, we have to make sure we check all the boxes. It doesn't matter if it was a free sensor. If you don't have image quality, if you don't have support, if you don't have warranty, and you don't have all those other things like patient comfort, ease of use, it doesn't mean anything. So we make sure we check all those boxes. We do it very well, and people are satisfied. People are happy. We've been around since 2017. Really tapped into the DSO space around 2022. I got invited to come over and started with Jazz in 23. I met Dr. Molina, I believe, in Nashville, Tennessee at one of his meetings, and really kicked it off from there. We got their attention, and we just showed them what we do. And again, the proof is in the pudding. We have to make sure we put some sensors out there, show them we can do this. The proof of concept is there. And they said, yeah, this works. The thing we love about it too is that we don't force Jazz upon people. Dr. Molina will always recommend it to his partners and say, hey, give us a shot. When people see the numbers, they say, okay, for that price, let me give it a shot. Sometimes the price can be deceiving because they think it's inexpensive, or they'll use the word cheap. And so they will think it's a cheaply made sensor, something cheap. Nope, it's not. It is a premium product. We just do it privately on a subscription-based model, which really, really helps the office, really helps the entire dental service organization. And, when you can keep doing that and keeping people happy daily, you start to have good relationships, and it's nice. And it's just really, really nice.
Dr. Molina, feedback from some of your practices, because Bob does, he makes a great point, which I was going to bring up, but he made it for me really, is I think it's sometimes when you have a subscription model like this and the pricing is as reasonable as it is, everybody thinks, well, it must be an inferior product. And that's just not the case. Dr. Molina, you mentioned you have 170 clinicians out there, to try to keep the majority of them happy with the imaging, right, can be a real challenge. And it sounds like you've been able to do that with Jazz. But, tell us a little bit about the feedback that you've had.
So again, what's interesting to me is in the early days when we first started working with Jazz, I think there was more trepidation. There was more of a hesitancy along those lines because people would see it and say, okay, is this sort of some knockoff brand? Is this something like that? And so there was a bit of an education process on my part and on Guardian's part to say, listen, we're not going to bring you a product that's inferior. What we have here is a really good product that's very well priced. So don't think of it as cheap. Just think of it as, because of the size of our organization, we're going to be able to get some breaks on pricing. But it's not something, and again, we refer to the pilot program and we involve our clinical director in it so that if anybody has questions about it, you could validate to them, this is not a cheap product. It may be a well-priced product, but it's not cheap. And then at that point, you also have to highlight some of the advantages. One of the reasons it may not be quite as expensive is that we're not including a big software platform that you have to install in there. So it works with you. So you start to say, well, listen, the pricing is good. We hope you like the image quality. If you don't, we'll work on it, or we won't use it for you. And we eventually got over that. I don't hear much anymore now that we're about a year and a half into it. I don't hear a lot of feedback from people who have any doubt. And in fact, kind of as we go through our partner meetings and everybody kind of talks to each other and at different meetings at different levels, they've learned that, hey, you've been using it. What do you think? And, we've gotten a lot of acceptance among existing users so that now it's just, it's just accepted. Oh, one of the issues we run into is someone with 2 sensors will call up, hey, I need to replace my 2 sensors, but I really want 4. And then I'm like, okay, wait, you got to make a business case for 4. And, we have to work that out because they think, oh, it doesn't cost that much. Let me get more sensors. So, sometimes you have to control that a little bit. But, other than that, I mean, that's been our experience. Once you get over that initial kind of new product trepidation and you back it up by having, having your docs talk to other docs that they know very well about who are using it, then we don't have that problem. And then what they see it as is a value, something that's a value at a very, very strong cost.
Well, that's great. And I think as we get to the end of the podcast here, I'd like to try and get your final thoughts from both of you. And then I'd really like to get your thoughts on where the industry's headed this year and where your organizations, any, kind of insights you can give us as to, what's cooking at, Guardian Dentistry Partners in 2025 and also for Jazz Imaging. So Tony, why don't we start with you?
So Guardian, what we've been focused on a lot is internal processes and make sure that everything, that we do internally is best in class. So we're working a lot on just making sure that we're supporting our doctors, right? When we look at the letters DSO, we've switched from being a dental service organization to being a dental support organization. So all we're doing now is looking at all of our internal processes and making sure that we are supporting our doctors the best way we can. As far as where the industry is going, everything's just becoming more and more digital. And to Bob's earlier point, some of the early digital products are now getting a little commoditized. And so, you're seeing a great cost benefit there. And you're also seeing that you're not really risking quality because, of course, the most important thing that the sensor has to do is give people a good quality image they can use to diagnose. And so if it's easy to use, it gives them a great image and it's got a great cost, it's a win-win for us. So.
Well, that's great. Bob, how about you? What's 2025 look like for Jazz?
It's been wonderful. It's going to be continue to grow again. I have to say 24 was a fabulous year for Jazz. And really because 23 was that great as well. We develop relationships, we get sensors out there. And once we can show kind of all the things that Dr. Molina mentioned, and you can check all those boxes, make it easy, make it simple, people will pay attention. And a dental support organization like Guardian, they want that and they see it. And so then word of mouth gets out there. I'm now starting to see people come by from other dental DSOs that say, hey, my good friend over at this one is using it, told me I have to take a look. Can you show me? And we say, absolutely. And we show it to them. And once they see it, we go through the same exact process of proving what we can do, showing what we can do, backing up what we say we can do with the support and warranty. And people are taking notice. And it's a very easy, simple way to get involved with Jazz Imaging right away. The other thing is too, is that we're a privately held company in San Jose, California, but we manufacture our sensors in San Jose. That's why we're able to keep all of our costs down and pass those savings on to the DSOs, pass them on to the dental practices, is because we don't outsource anything. We don't outsource. 90% of the sensors nowadays are made overseas. And a lot of now support companies have now outsourced their support out of the United States as well. Jazz Imaging, we're all under one roof in San Jose, California. We manufacture the sensors in-house. So right where our sensors are made is right next to where our support team sits. It's right next to where Jocelyn, who's our VP of Business Development, she sits in the same office. Todd Miller, our president, founder, CEO, is in the same office. Our software engineers are all there. So the nice thing is they're all there together as a team. We make 2 products and we get those out the door. We answer the phones and we just want to get you back on the road running quickly and easily. And that's really, once a sensor just does what it says it's supposed to do and you don't have the headaches, people take notice, and that's what we like to do.
Thanks, Bob. If anybody in the audience wants to contact you or find out more about Jazz Imaging or about Jazz Club, how do they do that?
Well, great question. Too, they can always get a hold of me, bob@jazzimaging.com. It's a very simple email. Again, bob@jazzimaging.com. But we always want to send people to our website as well. We try to send them over to jazzimaging.com. We try to be full transparent, full disclosure. Take a look. All of our pricing is on there. We're actually an e-commerce service. So believe it or not, you actually place your order just like you would like Amazon. You set up an account, you hit shop, you check out, and your sensor is sent to you. It's very easy. Everyone can look at their own accounts. They see it. And so I encourage everyone, go to jazzimaging.com. And if you have any questions, anything at all, if you want to try a sensor, please let me know. Email me, bob@jazzimaging.com. Happy to help you out. Happy to get involved and happy to have you see it grow just like Guardian Dental Partners.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Bob. And we'll drop the URL, jazzimaging.com, in the show notes, and then your email address as well in the show notes. And Dr. Molina, if somebody wants to contact you to, find out, how you do things at Guardian Dentistry Partners, or maybe we've got somebody out there that is looking to work for a dental support organization, or maybe partner with a dental support organization with their practice or their group, how do they do so?
Yeah, you can find me, Tony Molina, in LinkedIn would be one of the sources, but the other one would be Dr. Molina at guardiandentalpartners.com is the way to reach me. There's our website also, Guardian Dental Partners, and so there's just multiple ways to reach out to me. So, and if not, just come up to me if you see me at a meeting or whatever, and we can chat.
That's great. We'll make sure we drop all those, your LinkedIn handle, and Bob will put yours in there too, so people can reach out. Everybody seems to like to reach out on LinkedIn. But you can use old-fashioned email as well, or go to the website. So thank you both. Great conversation. And it was awesome to get to know you both a little bit better. And we appreciate everybody watching us today or listening in. And we appreciate the support from Jazz sponsoring this and giving us the opportunity to find out more about how Guardian works and about Dr. Molina. So until next time, I am Bill Newman, and this is the Group Dentistry Now Show.
Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to stay up to date on the latest DSO news, insights, and events. Also, subscribe to our DSO weekly e-newsletter at groupdentistrynow.com.